I was checking into my hotel, and hotels these days have fantastic energy-saving devices in terms of the slot in the wall. So you get your key, you put your slot in, that activates all the lights and aircon, everything else. So I was checking in at reception, and the receptionist gave me the key and gave me another one and said, this one is for your door, and this one you can leave in the slot when you go out so that all your lights and air conditioning systems work. So I thought that was an interesting observation of technology in terms of how it applies, but it's important that people know how that works and what the intentions are. So I'll leave that one with you. So the site is, we have 3 sites in the UK. I work at the R&D facility in Surrey. And as you can see, we've got about 28,000 square metres of building. About half of that is laboratory space. The rest sort of mix of office and plant rooms and things like that. So 2006, we had the Carbon Trust in, initial opportunities assessment. Number 1 on the list was aM&T, monitoring and targeting system. You need to know how much energy you're using and where you're using it. So fantastic, that's great, that's one thing we could get on with. 2007, we implemented a site-wide system, around about 180 metres. Obviously, eSight were involved in that as well. Then 2008, we're really into data validation, understanding, because we had a huge amount of data that we were generating, understanding what that was telling us, and developing our improvement strategies on the back of that. 2009, we started to see some results, 3% over the previous year, 3% reduction. Following year was another 6% on top of that. And this year we have a target, and we're on track to do a further 10%. So that's encouraging. So some of the learnings through that sort of 4 or 5 year journey. One of the things was metering meters when you put them in, starting at the top there in the blue box. Quantities, positions, and settings of those meters. You need to have the right settings, so the right number of pulses equals the right number of kilowatt hours and that kind of thing. So basic stuff, but then you need to validate that you've actually installed something. Validation is really, really important, and it took us quite a while to get a system that we had confidence in, that we could understand what the data was telling us, and early on we were seeing data that was giving us some anomalies, investigating that and finding out, well, it's not actually an energy consumption, it was a problem with the metering and the data. So validation is really important. And then data management. So if you think where we were as a site in 2006, we had something like 10 bills a month, so 120 data points. Now with 180 meters, we've got something like over 3 million data points in a year. Okay, so that amount of volume of data needs management, and you do get gaps. We've got gaps in our data. And depending on how big the gap is, how significant it is, where the meters are used, you need to do something about that. And then finally, I guess we need to focus on the information rather than data. aM&T is great for generating all this data. It's of no value at all if you can't translate that into something practical that you can do and understand what it's telling you about your business and operation. Some of the benefits that we've got through that period, certainly having a system that you're able to show and share with senior management to help their understanding. That can influence the long term in terms of they can understand how they're consuming energy in their buildings and operations today, so that influences future decisions. One of the examples from us, we are investing in the site, we're growing the site, and we're actually putting up a new building currently, an office building, and I was able to show from our experience and data with existing buildings, that the cost of that building in terms of operations into the future over a 20-year period, and which influenced then, well, let's design this building to a BREEAM excellent standard, and that's what we did. So there was a bit more investment needed up front to do that, but it's the right decision for us. Some of the quick wins as well. Without aM&T, we were not able to identify things like water leaks in buildings. And one example that we had last year was we saw our water increase in a particular building. Looked into it in more detail. What we found was one single toilet cistern fault. If that had been allowed to progress over the period of a year, would have related about 500 cubic meters of water wasted. So we were able to identify that and fix that. So there's some things there, but also looking at predicting future consumption, and also looking at optimizing your authorized capacity as an example. As we've been able to reduce the electricity consumption, we've re-looked at our authorised capacity and saved about £25,000 a year by reducing that down a little bit in terms of what we need. Obviously, targeting scarce resources, so you focus your resources on the most energy-intensive buildings or plants or systems, and for those, for us, it's laboratories. As I mentioned earlier, 50% of the space is laboratories, but that accounts for 90% of the energy consumption of the site, so it's significant. But we didn't know that before we had aM&T, so that was useful. And of course, it supports that data and that level of data down to the half-hourly data is really helpful for supporting further projects like CHP and any other improvement initiatives you want to do. Underpinning all of that, of course, is how you can share that information with staff and get that buy-in, which a number of the other presenters have referred to. It's really important and quite valuable. Just a couple of examples now about some of the results that we've achieved. Car park lighting, fairly simple one, really focused on controls and using the lights when we need to use them. The couple of boxes down the bottom there, the surface maps, are a really powerful tool I've found with sharing with people sort of to see the difference before and after. So you can see on the left is the 2008 position, on the right is, we've been able to turn off the lights, during the day, for example. Chemistry laboratory, again, we use eSight dashboards in this area, really helpful for, particularly in laboratories where a lot of the vast majority of the energy consumed is space heating and cooling. That's driven by airflow through the buildings, 100% fresh air system. So the actual fume hood sash management, so how open the fume hoods have a big impact in terms of the amount of energy that building consumes. If the chemists or the scientists can see that and understand that, then hopefully that drives them to managing their fume hood sash positions more effectively. The sort of wiggly line on the right-hand side there shows basically a degree day analysis of our gas consumption for that particular building, and coming down, which is nice to see. Overall results for the site then, since about the peak of 2009, I should explain prior to that, you see the graph kind of rising, and this is sort of our energy intensity, which is one of the key measures we use, which is kilowatt hours per square metre. We've grown the site, and certainly we added in about mid-2007, we had a very energy intensive science building. Full humidity control, 100% fresh air, no recirculation. So it was quite energy intensive and not that big, so it affected dramatically our energy intensity. Since that time, we've got control of it, I guess, and been driving down our energy, or improving our energy efficiency. So from the peak of 2009, January 2009, we're about 20% more efficient than we were at that time today. We have a goal of getting that down from a baseline of 2007, 15% reduction. But as a site, we're targeting 20% reduction, and we are on track to meet that as well. Similarly with water, again, that big sort of bolus around sort of 2008 is commissioning of that new building. So we used an enormous amount of water commissioning that building. Since that time, we've been able to get that under control and drive down. Haven't really done anything specific around that other than, as I mentioned earlier, tackling leaks and tackling faults and things, and getting to grips with those quickly rather than letting them accumulate. So just in summary then, it's important to have good data, but it's also important to have good interpretation of that data. So that's where people come into it. So it's important. People make energy efficiency improvements, not necessarily technology. Sharing knowledge in the right language, so presenting that information in a way that people can engage with is really, really important. So presenting in the right language, whether that's kilowatt hours or cost or CO2 or equivalent number of cars taken off the road, whatever it is that helps people understand where the levels are today and where you want to be in the future. See, aM&T is definitely an enabler for that. It's helped us understand our business a bit better, and certainly helps then share the value of those improvements that we've been able to get over that time.